It's time to code the media query on our index page. Notice that our page has the single column layout as far as we've gotten with it at this point coding it. In our finished example, notice that we have a 3-column layout. This is done by using a media query to change the layout of our page based on the width of the browser, or what is known as a viewport. If we shrink the viewport, at some point it changes to a different layout. Our H1 gets smaller and our 3-column layout goes to a single column layout for smaller devices and, as we get nearer, for mobile phones. So let's go back to our index that we're working on and let's code a media query, and we're just going to start by changing something simple. We're not going to try and change for the 3-column layout yet. We're just going to change the H1 to where it gets larger for the wider media query. Watch our H1 on this one. It's large, and as we go smaller, it will change to a smaller pixel size. I believe it's about 32 pixels in size right now, and our font size changes to about a 55 once it gets past a certain point in our viewport width. So let's get into our code editor. We'll go up into our styles. And we're going to code this at the very end of our styles. We're still inside our style area. Notice there's our closing style tag. But we're going to code this with a philosophy known as mobile first. We've coded a single column layout that works for our mobile phone first in our CSS. After that, we're going to start by coding our media queries as we go down in the cascade of our styles. That way the upper CSS is great for everything, the mobile and the wide, but when it needs to change for the wider, we'll change a few items when the viewport gets bigger. So let's go in here, and the first thing we're going to say is at media that starts our media query. Then we're going to put a space, and we're going to put a couple of parentheses, and we're going to say min width, min-width, colon, and we're going to use 830 pixels. This means that when the viewport gets to a width of 830 pixels or larger, it can change the layout of any of the CSS that we code after this media query. We do need to put a couple of curly braces to contain all the CSS rules for this media query. So let's go and just change the H1 to make it larger than the current 32 pixels that it's at for the mobile first CSS. So we'll go H1 for the tag selector. That's our heading in the banner. Do another couple of curly braces for the specific CSS rules for the H1. And we're going to state font-size. Let's make it 55 pixels. Alright, I'm going to save this and let's test it in our browser. So here's the one we're working on. I'm going to make it narrow first. I'm going to refresh it to use the new code base we just wrote. Notice it's still 32 pixels, but as we widen the browser, it gets bigger to 55 pixels. That's where our breakpoint or our media query is, right about there. That's 830 pixels. So that's what a media query does. It changes some part of your design based on the size of the screen width, which is also known as the viewport.